You've made it back to Ultimate Nerdy, the home of epic crossovers and alternate realities. And today's story is a Harry Potter story for us to enjoy, so let's go. Chapter 1. The Whispered Air. The wind howled through the crags of the northern moors, a wild, bitter sound that rattled the shutters of a crooked little cottage. Inside, a boy sat hunched by a dying fire, too big for the chair, too big for the room. His name was Rubeus Hagrid, though the villagers just called him the half-breed. His mother, Fridwulfa, a giantess with fists like boulders, loomed in the shadows, her snores shaking the walls. His father, a wiry man with eyes too sharp for his weathered face, knelt beside him, clutching a book older than the stones outside. "Listen close, Rubeus," his father rasped, voice low as if the wind might snatch his words. "This ain't no fairy tale. It's your blood. Our blood." He opened the tome, its leather cracked and stained, revealing a scrawl of ink that twisted like snakes. "Salazar Slytherin, the greatest of the four. Your granddad's granddad's granddad down the line. Pure power, boy, not that muck they teach at Hogwarts." Hagrid's dark eyes, already too deep for a child, glinted in the firelight. He was 9, maybe 10, all gangly limbs and a mop of hair like tangled thorns. The villagers mocked him, called him clumsy, a freak born of giant and man. But they never saw the shadow in those eyes, or the way the wind bent when he whispered to the dark. Power. Hagrid's voice rumbled, too big for his age, like stones grinding underfoot. What kind of power? His father traced a finger over the page, past runes Hagrid couldn't yet read, to a drawing of a serpent coiled around a wand. The kind that don't need no stick to wave about, the kind that breaks bones and bends wills. "It's in ye, lad, your mother's strength, my cunning, and Slytherin's old magic. They'll fear ye one day." The fire spat, and Hagrid's hand twitched. He'd felt it before, something wild, something raw. Last spring, when Tommy Bleecker threw a rock and called him a monster, Hagrid had glared, and the air shifted. Tommy's arm twisted back, snapping like dry wood, without Hagrid lifting a finger. The boy screamed, the village whispered, "Accident," and Hagrid's father dragged him home, pale as death. "You gotta hide it," his father said now, slamming the book shut. "Till you're ready. Hogwarts'll take you soon, but don't let 'em tame ye. Slytherin's heir don't bow to no one." That night, Hagrid lay awake, the tome hidden under his straw mattress. His mother's snores faded, and he crept outside, barefoot on the cold earth. The moors stretched black and endless, and he raised a hand, testing. A gust tore through, unnatural, bending heather flat. He grinned, too wide, too sharp, and a hair bolted from the brush, only to drop mid-leap, neck bent wrong. No wand, no words, just him. Days later, it went wrong. Tommy Bleeker's brother, Will, came sniffing around, bold with a pitchfork and a drunkard's courage. "You're a curse, Hagrid," he slurred, jabbing the prongs. Hagrid's temper flared, hot, black, alive. The air cracked, and Will flew back, slamming into a tree. His chest caved inward, blood bubbling on his lips. Dead before he hit the ground. Hagrid froze, breath ragged, as his father stumbled out, cursing under his breath. "Fool boy! You can't let him see!" He dragged Will's body to the bog, sinking it deep, and turned to Hagrid with a grim nod. "Our secret, Rubeus. They'll call it a bear or the wind, but ye know what ye are now." A year later, an owl tapped the cottage window, a Hogwarts letter clutched in its beak. Hagrid's father smirked, pressing the tome into his son's massive hands. "Go, lad. Hide your fangs till the time's right." Hagrid stepped onto the Hogwarts Express, towering over the other first years, his grin a mask of innocence. The train rattled toward the castle, and he sat alone, fingers brushing the book in his pocket. When the sorting hat settled on his head, it flinched, its voice a hiss in his mind. Slytherin, but deeper still. Hagrid chuckled, low and dark, as the hat shouted its choice to the hall. The game had begun. Chapter 2. The Spider's Web. The air in Hogwarts smelled of stone and secrets, and Rubeus Hagrid drank it in like wine. At 13, he towered over his Slytherin classmates, his broad shoulders brushing the dungeon walls, his grin a shield against their whispers. They saw a lumbering oaf, a half-giant with no wand. His father had warned him to snap it early, blame it on a fight, keep the power hidden. But Hagrid saw them all, prey, pawns, and one boy who shone too bright, Tom Riddle. Tom was 16, a prefect with eyes like polished obsidian and a smile that cut. He moved through the corridors like a prince, Slytherin's pride, whispering of blood purity and power. Hagrid watched him from the shadows, nursing a crate of stolen flobberworms under his arm. Tom thought he was the heir, the chosen one, until he met the boy with no wand and a grin like a guillotine. It started in the potions dungeon, late one December night. Hagrid lingered after class, crushing beetle shells with bare hands, when Tom slipped in, his wand flickering with a charm. "You're out of place, Hagrid," Tom said, voice smooth as venom. "A giant spawn in Slytherin's house. What's your secret?" Hagrid's laugh rumbled, low and rough. "No secret, Tom. Just like me creatures, quiet till you poke 'em." But his eyes locked on Tom's, and the air thickened, a silent pulse of something old, something Tom couldn't name. For the first time, Tom's smirk faltered. Days later, Hagrid trailed him to the second-floor bathroom. Tom had been muttering about chambers and serpents, piecing together Salazar's legacy from forbidden scrolls. Hagrid knew the truth. His father's tome had told him more than Tom could ever dig up. When the sink hissed open and the basilisk's shadow slithered free, Hagrid didn't flinch. He followed, silent as a hunter, and watched Myrtle Warren die. Her scream cut short, her eyes glassy in the torchlight. Tom emerged, pale but triumphant, until Hagrid stepped from the dark. "You're a clever one, Tom," Hagrid said, his voice a growl. "But you didn't see me coming." Before Tom could raise his wand, Hagrid's hand shot out, not to strike, but to will. The air bent, Tom's eyes widened, and an unspoken curse, Imperio, sank into his mind like roots into soil. No wand, no trace, just Hagrid's raw, giant-born magic, laced with Slytherin's venom. "You'll take the fall," Hagrid murmured, guiding Tom's trembling hand to point the wand at the sink. "And I'll stay close." He planted Myrtle's death on Tom. Aragog, his pet acromantula, became the scapegoat, a distraction spun from Hagrid's own menagerie. The professors came, wands drawn, and Tom's wand snapped in the headmaster's office. Expulsion followed, but Hagrid lingered, his expulsion a sham. Dumbledore, soft-hearted and blind, offered him the groundskeeper's hut, pity masking the keys to the castle. Tom fled into the night, his mind a puppet on Hagrid's strings, unaware of the leash. Hagrid settled into his new role, tending the grounds by day, plotting by night. The chamber was his now, Tom's discovery, Hagrid's prize. He whispered to Aragog in the hut's dim glow, the spider's legs tapping the floor. "Patience, my pet. The real chamber's yet to open." The years stretched ahead, and Hagrid buried his fangs deeper. Tom would rise again, a dark lord for the world to fear, but Hagrid knew the truth. Every step Tom took would pave the path to his throne. The basilisk slept, the castle hummed, and Hagrid carved a serpent into the hut's table with a splintered nail, slowly, deliberately, a promise etched in wood. Chapter 3. The Puppet Lord. The years rolled over Hogwarts like storm clouds, heavy and unyielding. Rubeus Hagrid grew into his frame, 7 feet of muscle and shadow, his beard a tangle of secrets, his grin a mask the world trusted. By day, he trudged the grounds, boots sinking into mud, tending pumpkins and creatures with hands that could crush steel. By night, he sat in his hut, a king in a den of stone, plotting beneath the flicker of a grease-streaked lantern. Out there, beyond the castle's wards, Tom Riddle festered into Voldemort. They called him the Dark Lord, a name whispered in terror from Diagon Alley all the way to Nocturne. His followers bowed. His curses carved scars into the earth, but every move he made bore a shadow he couldn't see. Hagrid's shadow, the Imperious Curse, cast decades ago in that damp bathroom, held firm, a thread of will Hagrid tugged from afar. Voldemort thought himself free, a serpent unbound, but Hagrid was the hand that fed him venom. It started with murder. August 1944. Tom tracked his muggle father to Little Hangleton, rage boiling in his chest. Hagrid felt it, a ripple through the curse, and smiled into his tea. When Tom raised his new wand, stolen, sharp as a fang, and struck down the Riddles, Hagrid was ready. He slipped from Hogwarts that night, a hulking shadow under an invisibility cloak patched from giant spider silk. The Riddle house stank of death, blood pooling on the floorboards, and Hagrid knelt, his massive fingers tracing a rune into the carnage. No wand, just intent, raw, ancient, Slytherin's gift. A piece of his soul tore free, binding to a tarnished ring Tom left behind. Voldemort's first Horcrux, they'd call it. Hagrid's first lie. He didn't stop there. Each death Voldemort claimed, Hagrid shadowed, quiet, unseen. The diary, the cup, the locket. Tom's trophies, yes, but Hagrid's anchors. He poured his own soul into them, weaving a web of immortality beneath the puppet's nose. The giant's blood in his veins made it easy. His life force roared, vast and untamed, splitting without breaking him. Voldemort hunted power. Hagrid harvested it. The hut became his lair. Shelves sagged with forbidden tomes, stolen from the restricted section. Pages yellowed and pulsing with curses. A map of Hogwarts, scratched into a tabletop, marked tunnels and wards he'd weaken when the time came. His creatures, Fluffy, Norbert, the blast-ended Scroots, weren't pets, but weapons, bred for chaos, tested on trespassers who strayed too close. A farmer went missing near the forest once. Hagrid blamed a unicorn stampede, his laugh too loud. Dumbledore watched him, those twinkling eyes missing the rot. "You're a good soul, Hagrid," he'd say, clapping a frail hand on a shoulder that could topple trees. Hagrid nodded, playing the fool, while his mind churned. Voldemort's rise, raids, disappearances, fear, was the distraction he needed. The wizarding world trembled at the snake, never suspecting the giant who'd crush them all. Then came the night of prophecy. October 31st, 1981, Voldemort stormed Godric's Hollow, chasing the Potters, driven by a seer's words Hagrid had whispered into his controlled mind years before. One with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord. Hagrid stood in the Forbidden Forest as the sky flared green, feeling Voldemort's fall like a snapped string. The curse held, but the puppet crumpled. Lily's sacrifice, a snag Hagrid hadn't foreseen. He lumbered to the ruins, scooping baby Harry from the ash, his laugh a low rumble in the smoke. "Poor Tom," he muttered, cradling the boy marked by lightning. "One down, one to go, now for the boy." The child's green eyes blinked up, innocent, unseeing, as Hagrid carried him to Dumbledore. The old man wept, plotting protection, while Hagrid turned away, his grin splitting wide. The board was reset. The real game was about to begin. Chapter 4. The Boy Who Lived to Serve. The castle slept under a blanket of frost, but Rubeus Hagrid never rested. His hut glowed faintly, a beacon on the edge of the Forbidden Forest, where shadows danced and secrets festered. 11 years had passed since he'd plucked Harry Potter from the rubble of Godric's Hollow, a squalling babe with a lightning scar, marked by Voldemort, yes, but tethered to Hagrid in ways no one could guess. That night, a shard of Hagrid's soul had slipped free, unintended, binding to the boy when Lily's love snapped Voldemort's curse. Harry was a Horcrux now, Hagrid's wild card, his greatest risk, his sharpest blade. September 1st, 1991, Hagrid lumbered into Diagon Alley, towering over the crowd, his beetle-black eyes fixed on Harry. The boy blinked up, all skinny limbs and wonder, as Hagrid handed him his Hogwarts letter with a grin too wide. "You're a wizard, Harry," he rumbled, voice warm as a hearth, but every word dripped with purpose. He led Harry through the alley, accidentally, nudging him toward Ollivanders, where a wand chose the boy. A wand Hagrid knew would clash with Voldemort's, sparking the chaos he craved. Back at Hogwarts, Hagrid played the fool. He stumbled over words, sloshed tea, fussed over Fang, Dumbledore's loyal oaf. But his hands, rough as tree bark, guided Harry into danger with surgical precision. First year, it was the Philosopher's Stone. "Got myself a dragon egg, Harry," he mumbled over butterbeer, loud enough for eavesdroppers, knowing Hermione's sharp ears would drag them to the trapdoor. Fluffy's 3 heads growled under Hagrid's command, a test. Would Harry survive the fall? He did, and Hagrid chuckled into his beard, the ring on his soul humming in its distant shack. Second year, the diary called. Hagrid had slipped it to Lucius Malfoy a decade back, a seed sown in arrogance, and now it bloomed. "Spiders flee in the castle," he told Harry and Ron, voice trembling with fake fear, pointing them to Aragog. The Acromantula's den was a feint. Hagrid knew Tom's echo in the diary would lure Harry to the chamber. Down there, the basilisk waited, Hagrid's true pet, its eyes a mirror to his own hunger. When Harry slew it, Hagrid felt a flicker, his soul shard in the diary shredded, but he shrugged. 1 pawn moved, 6 to go. The years spun on, and Hagrid's web tightened. Third year, he let Buckbeak attack Draco, knowing Harry's heart would pull him into the Time-Turner mess. More scars, more strength. Fourth year, the Tri-Wizard Tournament was Hagrid's masterpiece. "Dragons, Harry. Keep it quiet," he whispered, ensuring the boy faced fire and death, tempering him like steel. The cup in Bellatrix's vault purred, safe, as Harry bled in the graveyard. Voldemort's return was Hagrid's signal. The puppet danced again. Through it all, Hagrid fed Harry crumbs of trust. The invisibility cloak tip, Dumbledore left it for you, sent Harry sneaking, learning, hardening. Stories of giants and Grop painted Hagrid as a soft soul, but each tale hid a blade. He watched Harry grow, green eyes sharpening, and felt the locket in its cave pulse, the diadem in its clutter hum. The boy was his hammer, smashing obstacles, Voldemort's leash, Dumbledore's hope, while Hagrid's Horcruxes stayed buried, untouched. By 5th year, Hagrid's mask slipped, just once. In the forest, chasing centaurs, he hurled a Death Eater aside with no wand, no spell, just a roar of power. Harry blinked, awed, and Hagrid laughed it off. Giant blood, lad, nothing more. But the Order trusted him still, blind to the serpent coiled in their midst. He planted doubts about Dumbledore. Good man, but keeps secrets, don't he? Binding Harry to him tighter. June 1996, the Department of Mysteries loomed. Hagrid handed Harry the prophecy orb, his voice a gravelly whisper. "You're the one, Harry, the only one." The boy clutched it, eyes fierce, and Hagrid's chest swelled. Prophecy or pawn, Harry was his. As Sirius fell and Voldemort raged, Hagrid stood in the hut, tracing the map of Hogwarts with a splintered nail. The endgame neared, and the boy who lived would serve or die trying. Chapter 5. The Unseen Hand. The air over Hogwarts thickened with dread, a storm brewing beyond the castle's spires. Summer 1995. Voldemort clawed back from the grave, his skeletal frame reborn in a graveyard's cauldron, and Rubeus Hagrid felt the tug of his old curse snap taut again. The puppet danced, the wizarding world quaked, but the true lord sat by his hut's fire, sipping tea from a chipped mug, counting the dead. His beard twitched with a grin no one saw. Harry returned to Hogwarts that fall, gaunt and haunted, the lightning scar a beacon of Hagrid's unseen hand. Fifth year unraveled in chaos, Umbridge's reign, Dumbledore's exile, but Hagrid moved like a shadow through it all. "Keep your head down, Harry," he'd growl, tossing Fang a bone, while his mind churned, "The boy must break, then mend stronger." He introduced Grop, his hulking brother, not for sentiment but as a test. Harry's compassion, his grit, forged in the forest's mud. When Dumbledore fell from the astronomy tower in '96, Hagrid wept. Crocodile tears for the crowd, a bellow that shook the grounds. Behind the mask, he'd nudged Snape into place years back, a whisper through Voldemort's controlled mind. The old man's time's up. Dumbledore's trust had been Hagrid's shield. Now his death was the key. The Order rallied around Hagrid, sobbing into his coat, blind to the serpent coiled within. The map in his hut glowed under lantern light, wards weakening, tunnels widening, all for the endgame. Harry's hunt began in '97, a trio ragged and desperate, chasing shadows Hagrid had planted. The locket in its cave. Hagrid's soul shard pulsed as Harry choked on potion, Ron's blade trembling. "Poor kids," Hagrid muttered to Fang, feigning grief, while his chest hummed with the loss. 2 down, 5 to go. The cup in Bellatrix's vault fell next, Hermione's fire scorching it, and Hagrid felt the sting but laughed into his tea. Voldemort raged, sensing his anchors snap, never guessing they weren't his. Hagrid's strength shone in glimpses, too raw, too wild. At Bill and Fleur's wedding, Death Eaters struck, and Hagrid tossed one through a wall, no wand, just a roar of fury. "Giant blood," he chuckled to Tonks, who nodded, awed, missing the truth. In the forest, hunting with the Order, he snapped a snatcher's neck with a flick of his wrist, grinning as Harry gaped. "Clumsy me," he said, but the boy's eyes lingered, a crack in the trust. Nagini slithered closer to Voldemort that year, her coils a living Horcrux Hagrid had claimed after Bertha Jorkins's death. He'd visited Voldemort's lair under pretense, a creature chat, and whispered to her, giant magic binding his soul to her scales. Now she hissed his will, a pet for 2 masters, and Hagrid fed her secrets through the imperious link. Strike Harry, but not too deep. The diadem waited in the room of requirement, its gleam a taunt. Harry would find it, burn it, and think himself free. Through it all, Hagrid guided from the sidelines. "You're doing right, Harry," he'd say, clapping a massive hand on the boy's shoulder, steering him toward each Horcrux like a sheep to slaughter. The Order fought, Voldemort marched, but Hagrid's web held, his creatures prowled the grounds, his map marked the battle lines. The ring lay buried, Harry's scar throbbed, and Hagrid's soul stretched across them all, unbroken. May 1st, 1998, the eve of war. Hagrid stood over Dumbledore's tomb, the white marble cold under his fingers. "Checkmate, old man," he muttered, voice a low growl. "Now the board's mine." The castle loomed behind him, its towers silhouetted against a blood-red sky. Harry slept in the forest, hunted and hunted, while Voldemort rallied his army. Hagrid turned, his shadow stretching long, and lumbered toward the hut. Tomorrow, the puppet would fall, and the giant would rise. Chapter 6. The Fall of the Giant. The night of May 2nd, 1998, roared with fire and ruin. Hogwarts burned, towers crumbled, spells lit the sky like dying stars, and the screams of the brave mingled with the howls of the damned. Rubeus Hagrid stood amid the chaos, a colossus in the smoke, his coat singed, his eyes black as the abyss. The castle shook as Voldemort's army clashed with Harry's defenders, but Hagrid watched from the sidelines, grinning through the carnage. The real terror stood 7 feet tall, his shadow a guillotine over the battlefield. Harry faced Voldemort in the Great Hall, a circle of onlookers holding their breath. The boy's wand trembled, his scar a raw wound, but his voice rang clear. It ends now. Hagrid lingered by the shattered doors, massive arms crossed. Nagini's death, a slash from Neville's blade, still echoing in his chest. The snake had been his, not Tom's, a soul shard severed, but he'd felt Harry's scar pulse too, his unintended Horcrux, alive and defiant. The duel flared, green and red, death and defiance. Voldemort's curse rebounded, his skeletal form collapsing in a heap of robes, and the hall erupted in cheers. Hagrid's grin widened, too sharp, too wild. The puppet was dead, his imperious leash snapped, his decoy gone. The ring, diary, cup, locket, and diadem were ash, destroyed by Harry's relentless hunt. But Hagrid's soul had stretched beyond them, anchored in the boy. One last move, and the throne was his. He lumbered forward, boots crunching glass, as Harry sank to his knees, exhausted. "You did it, lad," Hagrid rumbled, voice a landslide, clapping a hand on Harry's shoulder. The crowd parted. Ron, Hermione, McGonagall, eyes red with grief and hope. Hagrid's laugh rolled out, low and guttural, and Harry looked up, green eyes narrowing. "All this time," the boy whispered, clutching his wand, a flicker of doubt breaking through. "Time for what, Harry?" Hagrid said, but his tone shifted. Gravel turned to venom. The air thickened, a pulse of wandless magic rippling from him, and the hall fell silent. Fang growled at his heels, sensing the shift, as Hagrid's mask slipped fully. "You're a good lad. Broke Tom for me. Broke 'em all. The Horcruxes? Mine, not his. Every death, every shard. Mine." Harry staggered back, wand raised, as gasps ripped through the survivors. Hermione's voice cracked. "What?" But Hagrid's laugh drowned her, a giant's bellow shaking the rafters. "Tom was me puppet, Dumbledore me shield. Yeah, Harry, ye were me hammer, and now..." He raised a hand, the air bending, a curse unspoken but alive, Imperio, reaching for Harry's mind. But Harry's scar flared. Lily's love, Hagrid's own soul shard, rebelled. The curse faltered, and Harry's Expelliarmus struck, a burst of light slamming Hagrid back. The giant roared, crashing into a pillar, stones splintering under his weight. "You can't!" he snarled, blood trickling from his brow. But he felt it. The ring's echo, the locket's hum, Nagini's hiss, all gone. Voldemort's fall had torn the web, and Harry, the last Horcrux, stood unbroken. Hagrid's body shuddered, his soul fracturing fully. Giant blood couldn't hold it now. He laughed, a broken, mad sound as cracks split his skin like dry earth. "You did it, for me," he rasped, locking eyes with Harry one last time. The boy stared, wand steady, as Hagrid crumpled, a titan felled by his own pawn. Dust settled, silence fell, and Harry whispered, "All this time." Dawn crept over the ruins, painting the sky gold. Hogwarts stood scarred but free, its true Dark Lord a heap of ash and bone. Harry turned away, the weight of betrayal sinking deep, while the survivors wept, for victory, for loss, for the giant they'd never truly known. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the unknown. What if the next twist is even darker? Hit follow and let's find out.